So, John, would you pass around the mic, please, and school them for any questions that they have after a day sitting here listening to me flap my lips.
Hey, Ron, would you ever consider splitting your profit with a seller if they were... Splitting your profit with the seller?
I've considered it, but not for long. But it is an option if you want to do it. But I got to tell you got to be very careful about making deals with people that are not required to get the deal done. If I'm backed into a corner and that's the only way I can get the deal done and there's enough profit to make me interested in it, I certainly can do that. I absolutely can do it. But I don't do it as a habit. Yes?
Can you just assign the option instead of putting it on HUD?
Yes, I can assign the option.
So why
Any
wouldn't
agreement
you do
that I get with a seller, I can assign to the buyer. I'll tell you why. Because when the buyer goes... Now look, if the buyer happens to be an all-cash buyer and not going and getting the loan, boy, that makes it real easy. I mean, we can do anything you want then. I can do anything I want. But if the buyer is going to require a loan, the lender is going to check the title and find out that the person, you, does not own the house. So I want the contract to come then directly from the seller to the buyer, and we got a normal deal. Question up here.
When you do a lease option and you collect an option deposit, or that's non-refundable, how do you convert that to an assignment fee without complications?
That's a good question. I don't convert it to an assignment fee. If it's an AX deal, and I am just assigning it, we just point blank tell the buyer, this is an assignment fee, and this is what we get for finding this property for you and pre-screening you and getting the seller to approve you. That's what we just call it. We call it an assignment fee. It's not an option deposit. In fact, I have cautioned Scott on many occasions to make sure he doesn't call it an option deposit. First of all, we don't even mention it till the buyer is well into the deal. You don't want to use language up front that scares people away when they don't understand what you're talking about. So it's business as usual till we get to the point to where we got a buyer that we like that wants into the house. And then we simply explain the details to them. And then, of course, if that assignment fee becomes a problem because they want to use it toward their down payment, then I'll explain to you earlier what we do with the deal. We just lease it to them directly from us and assign our lease to the seller instead of the other way around. Yes?
I just want to make sure I'm clear. With the sandwich lease, do you not close or finalize your agreement to lease purchase until you have the lease purchase tenant buyer?
Oh, that's a good question. And absolutely not. Remember what I told you earlier today. Whether it's a sandwich lease, whether it's an AX deal, you must, or whether it's a simple purchase and sale agreement, you must have an agreement to buy or lease the property before you can go look for buyers. So in a sandwich lease, I'm leasing it from the seller, which is, by the way, a totally different lease than if I don't intend to stay in it, which we're going to cover. So I've already got the seller to sign the lease to my entity before I go find the buyer. Then I put the buyer in. The buyer goes in front of an attorney, and then the attorney closes that one and also contacts the seller at that point to get him to sign anything else that needs signed. I want my attorney to have a conversation with both seller and buyer. Buyer in front of them, seller usually by phone.
Okay.
But the attorney does not get involved till I find the buyer.
Okay, thanks.
For a tenant-buyer situation, do you do any pre-screening for that potential buyer that they will qualify at the end of the deal?
Yes, we know they won't qualify. That's why they came to us to begin with. We know what their credit looks like. We know what their income looks like, and we wouldn't approve them to go in the house if we don't know that, which we're going to cover all of that tomorrow.
Ron, I have two questions.
Yes.
One is for the buyer-tenant. How do you handle the insurable interest of that person in this property? Do you simply add him as additional insured? And have you
Nope.
had... No.
My insurance is covered by the seller. It's part of their payment, most likely, if it's PITI. As long as the seller retains ownership, they must insure the property. If I'm lease optioning it from the seller, there is no insurance to buy. If I'm putting my tenant buyer in it, there's no insurance to buy. There's no insurance for them to buy, unless they want to buy renter's insurance to cover their contents.
Okay, I understand that side of it.
It is in my lease option agreement, however, that we have a interest in the insurance check if it happens to burn down.
Okay, so I assume there's a power of attorney and other things in there as well. The second question I have regards the possibility of a seller encumbering the property, placing a fraudulent lien against it after we have acquired it.
Okay.
Have you encountered any of that?
All right. First of all, it's in your agreement that they cannot do that. And if you're going to stay in the deal, you're probably going to want to record a memorandum of option, not the lease option agreement, a memorandum of option, which happens to be in your book, which we get to in the morning. That will prevent them from doing any refinancing or extending their loan on their house because it clouds their title. If you're not going to stay in the deal, and it's an axe deal, we don't record anything. But the agreement clearly states they cannot encumber the property any more than it is. So if they choose to buy it, well, if it's overfinanced, that's not an issue anyway. But if they do have a bunch of equity in it, they cannot go draw it down on a credit line or refinance it without their buyer's permission. And, of course, I don't ever have a problem with that. I haven't had a problem with that yet.
I was thinking more in the line of a judgment lien or something like that.
Okay, if a lien attaches to a seller, as long as the deed is in the seller's name, it will attach to the house, and there will be a title problem. That title problem becomes the seller's responsibility to fix. However, it does drag the buyer in and make them part of that process, or part of that problem. It is, again, it's the seller's responsibility to deliver clear title. If they can't, there are going to be legal ramifications against them. If they, worst case, they can't deliver clear title and tenant buyer sues them, and or tenant buyer just walks away, or tenant buyer just keeps on remains living in the property until as long as they want. And all of those things can happen. Rarely do they. If that is a concern for you, and if you think the seller is going to get in trouble, and if you see problems coming, you can insist that the seller put the property in a land trust before you take over possession. If they put the property into a land trust, a lien against them will not attach to the house. Yeah.
My question is, how can you pre-screen or qualify a potential tenant or buyer if you don't mention the assignment fee or any kind of layout at the beginning? You said you don't disclose this until the deal is almost done, or just before the deal.
I don't disclose what exactly.
That there's a,
we disclose
whatever you call it, assignment fee or some cash payment up front.
Okay, so we're talking about an axe deal.
Correct.
What we do disclose is the loan balance and the payment because we can't control it. So,
Yep.
I'm telling you, and this is going to be very difficult for you guys to believe, the buyer does not care what's owed on the house.
That's
They
correct.
care about
But
two things. How much does it take to get in, and how much is my monthly payment going to be when I get in, and I have a long term to do whatever I want. We go and find tenant buyers through the normal channels. And then when we get them to the point, in fact, we don't ever tell them, this house is overfinanced. We tell them, this is the loan balance, and this is the payment. But you get a 10-year term. You get all that time. And you get the benefit of the debt pay down, which is a sweet deal for them. Sweet deal. In fact, where do you ever see that a tenant actually gets to pay off the house while they're renting it? You don't.
that's understood, but how do we find out the potential tenant or buyer does have the cash payment for our assignment fee if we don't tell them there is such a thing?
Oh, how do I know? You're asking me how do we determine the amount of the assignment fee?
No.
Huh?
I'm asking, how do we know that the potential tenant or buyer qualifies if we don't tell them up front there's a $6,500, $12,000, or whatever the assignment fee will be, that he has the cash to pay us?
Oh,
besides
well,
the monthly payment.
First of all, we don't know that if we say how much you got to put down towards your house and they give us a number and we like it, that's our assignment fee. Now, obviously, if they don't bring it to closing, there ain't going to be no closing. And that's how we determine the assignment fee, guys. How much money do you have? That's our assignment fee. Right, John? That's it. Our assignment fee is kind of flexible. We don't name the assignment fee. That's where you're
I'm not so
confused.
concerned about what the assignment fee is. I'm concerned about how can we pre-screen potential buyers when they do not know up front there's a cash payment required.
Well, they do know that up front. What makes you think they don't?
Okay, that's what was my
First
question.
question we
What
ask
point?
them, how much of money you got?
So it is.
And if they don't
first
get
question.
past that one, there ain't no more
Okay.
questions. Right, John? Huh? What? Exactly. How much money you have. That's what determines who we
Okay,
pick.
you
for the
said
most part.
earlier we don't tell them until the deal is almost on the table.
No, I did not. I just said we do not tell them that the house is over leveraged or all of that assignment stuff until we find out we want them. There's no sense of explaining things to them if they're not our buyer. And when they become our buyer, they have to know the facts. But it's not a big deal. I'm telling you, they don't care. Do they care, Scott? Not at all. You would think they would, wouldn't you? But you're forgetting that deep down desire to be in that home of your own. They just don't care. Yes?
On page 48, where it's if highly leveraged.
48?
Yeah, page 48. The script says that I'll lease your house with the option to buy it at the loan balance at the time it's purchased.
Yes?
And make your payments until then. Is that
Yes?
correct?
Yes. You're not going to make them, but their payments will be made. If you don't like it, change it to, and your payments will be made. You're worried because I'm not the one making their payments, and the script says I am, right?
Right. Well, normally it says you're going to make the first one payment or two payments or three payments.
Now, you're
Where am I
confusing an axe
confused?
deal with a sandwich lease deal. There ain't no discussion about three payments in an axe deal. And their payments will be made, and they will learn along the way that it's not me that's making them. In fact, it's in the rest of the script. I'll find a tenant buyer, you'll qualify them, and you'll decide whether they go in your house or not. But their payments will be made. So what is the question exactly? What are you confused about?
It just appears in some of the other proposals, we're getting money from them. We're getting the first.
No, you're not. You're getting the money from the tenant buyer. You're not getting a dime from the seller.
No, that's right.
That's right.
That's right. We're getting it.
You're getting the first payment that the seller gives you, first month's rent,
Right.
because your attorney is collecting it.
Okay. All right. I'm good with that.
But from that point on, they're getting their payments made. All right, one more.
Back when you were talking to him about optioning his house, for $800 down to $500, and he gave you the objection to, I want to sell my house. Would you in that instance allow him to list that house also?
Would you let him list it?
Yeah,
No
would you?
way. No. If he wants to list it, let him list it. You cannot try to option a house that's listed. You're going to have a rash of crap with a realtor. Believe me, you do not want to do that. Either he wants to list it or he don't. If he wants to list it, you're out till the listing expires. And incidentally, you don't want to go option a house that's already listed either. Guys, do you know that if a realtor has a listing agreement, they have a contract? And if you go interfere with that contract, you're going to get sued. It's called tortious interference. And you will likely wind up paying the commission to the realtor. And we don't go around realtors' back trying to steal deals from them. However, it is incumbent upon the seller to let us know that it's listed. Now, of course, when you get out to the sign and you see the realtor sign in front, that's a clue. At that point, you better be really inquiring. What's this? Oh, it's just a buddy of mine. I'll call him and he'll remove it. Okay, are you sure? Because I can't do this if there's a realtor involved.
What we want to do, really, guys, is this is your time. This is the time for you to get the nitty-gritty, the questions you haven't had answered yet, and that's what we're here for you. So we're going to cut to the chase and really get into, John's going to show you a couple things here, and then we're going to get your questions answered, and that's what this is all about. So,
when I'm working with a seller, I use a couple of different tools that really help me make them see what exactly is going on with their property and the economy today and what we can do to get them what they're looking for. Now, I know you really can't see this very good, but it's a spreadsheet that we came up with. It's called a cost to sell sheet, and I'll give you the heading on it. It says cost to sell, and it breaks down the sale if the person would list, market, and sell through a realtor with an average of 6 months, which is, that's going to make a realtor a hero if they can sell it in 6 months in this economy. But it breaks it down. Now, on here I have a $100,000 asking price as an example. So if my seller says, well, I want $100,000 for the property, I say, okay. So we plug in the $100,000 and we start deducting all the costs over the next 6 months, such as real estate commission, lenders required seller assist to the buyer. That's usually up to 6%. You got a buyer's discount. Now, typically they get around 5%, but we have 3% on our calculation, giving them a little bit of an advantage. Closing costs, anywhere from 2 to 4%. Mortgage payments, on $100,000, it's probably somewhere around $700 a month. Utilities, lawn care, appraisal, survey. If it's vacant, there may be some damage from vandals. Transfer tax, property taxes, inspection. I call them inspection gotchas. They may want this repaired, that repaired, whatever. Home warranty, appliances, termite inspection, all that stuff. So the seller thinks, hey, I want $100,000, and that's all there is to it. Well, there's $32,160 that's going to get eaten up in costs over the course of 6 months. So they would actually net $67,840. So they think they're getting $100,000. They're actually going to get $67,840. Do you see how powerful that is? What I just did was I took them from $100,000 down to $67,800. And I tell them, look, if you go with a realtor, this is what you're going to get. Now, if you go with me, I can get you $100,000 for your property, possibly even more. And then, of course, how are you going to do that? So then I pull out my trusty little calculator for mortgages, and I plug in $100,000. And I'm going to be generous and give them a 4% interest rate. At 4% interest rate, I amortize over 30 years, and I get a payment of $477. Now, off to the right here, I have calculations for balloon payments. I've got a 5-year, a 7-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year, and a 30-year amortization with balloons. Okay, so now I tell them I can't go with a realtor. You're going to get the $67,000. If you go with me, you're going to get, well, if we just do this for 5 years, I can get you $119,000. And that's because they're going to collect $19,000 in interest, $9,500 in principal, and a balloon payment of $90,000. For a total of $119,000. Now, I give them probably 3 choices to go with. I'll give them maybe I don't like to go to a 5-year term, but I will go 7, 10, 15, 30, whatever. But I give them different choices. I can get you $126,000 with 7 years. I can get you $150,000 if we go for 15 years. If you want to take it for the full 30 years, heck, we can get you $171,000 for this $100,000 house. I give them that. They have it in black and white. They read it. They study it. And then I contact them and I say, okay, which of the offers did you like the most? Well, they may pick one. If they pick one, I'm in business. If they don't pick one, then I say, well, out of the ones I sent you, which did you dislike the least? And then they'll say one. And I say, okay, let's say it's the 10-year balloon. Well, what could I change if I could change one thing on that offer to you that would make it satisfactory to you that we can do a deal? Well, I don't want to go over 10 years, but, I was hoping for more than 4% interest. Okay, what were you hoping for? Well, I was hoping for 8. Well, it's like, wow, like Ron says. What's your second choice? Well, that's pretty high. If I get 6%, I'm happy. Okay. So now I go back to my calculator. I tell them, I say, hey, I'll check with my partners, and I'll get right back to you, see what we can do. And let's see. I go to my calculator. I change it for some reason. Oh, I guess you got to hit the right button. Change it to
Do you guys
6%.
understand how powerful this can actually be for you when you're negotiating with somebody?
So 6% took it from, what was it? We were at 4%. That was $477 a month. At 6%, we're going to go to $599 a month. That was a pretty big jump. Now, if $599 will work, for a house like this in this area, then I'm fine. But if $599 is too high, then he gets a choice. He can have principal or he can have interest. He can't have them both. He wants interest, I get principal. So now I knock.
You guys should be writing that down.
Now I knock my
principal or
down.
interest.
So if I start playing with the numbers, okay, $80,000 principal, which is still more than what he would get with a realtor, right? Because the realtor is only going to give him $67,000. I'm going to give him $80,000. I'm giving him his 6% interest rate. Look what happened to the payment, $479, $2 more than where I was. But I made him happy and gave him his interest. Now, what did we do with what he's going to end up making? We were at 10-year balloon. We're up to $124,500 is what he would get on this deal. So the realtor's going to give him $67,000. I'm going to give him $124,000. Who's he going to go with? See? So that's the power of using that cost to sell sheet that we use to show them what they would get if they went with the realtor, and then the power of using this balloon calculator that I have of working the numbers. I tell people, think of yourself as a used house salesman. You're not a used car salesman, although it's pretty much the same thing, because the main thing we're looking for is that PITI. If the PITI makes sense for that house, that's what I want. I don't care how many years the lease option's for. I don't care what the interest rate is on the amortization of it. I don't care. The PITI is what we're selling. Remember Ron said, people don't care what the price of the house is. They don't care. How much a month? That's what they want to know. So once I have that number, that PITI, using this, I can back into that number and do the calculations. Does that make sense?
Okay.
You should probably have a microphone.
Nikki, can we have a mic? We have some questions. We just want to kind of give you a couple of the tools we use first, and then open it up to you guys for questions. So,
do you see how by using these two things and explaining it to our seller how it's so much better to go with us than to go with the realtor, that we're having the success rate that we're having? Okay? I mean, it depends on what their greed gland is.
Question here.
The question is, what if the seller says, well, the 124 is over 10 years. If I work with the real estate agents, I get, my money up front. Mm-hmm. How do you cope with that?
Well, here again, are you happy with getting $67,000? If you're happy with $67,000 and not knowing when it's going to start be sold, because let's face it, they're not selling very quickly in today's market. Okay? If it's a $100,000 house and they want $100,000 for the property, the realtor is going to have to list that for around what, 120 to cover everything?
Got to remember, we're hitting their greed glands. That's what we're going after. Because, yes, they can make either $67,000 or they can make $125,000. Yes, it takes 10 years. But why wouldn't they want to be the bank?
What are they going to do with that? I mean, where are they going to make 6% interest today or in the next 10 years? They're not, unless they know what we know. See? And like I was saying, a $100,000 house is going to have to be listed for about $120,000 to cover all the costs. Well, who is going to go to the MLS and look at a $100,000 house that's listed for $120,000? Not many buyers are going to look at that.
While I have the mic, maybe I have missed it, but are these programs proprietary, or you can pull them up anywhere?
No, we're selling them for $900. No.
Okay.
No.
Today only, yeah.
No, we can. I
was going to say.
There. We'll email it to you. They're spreadsheets, so they're, if
the other thing we'll do is maybe ask Ron if he would be willing to put them up on the Gold Club.
Yeah, we could do that too.
Yeah. We could check that out. Yeah, definitely. We'll figure that out for you. Okay, any other questions? Because that was one of the tools that we use. We don't want to spend too much more time on it because we want to get your questions.
Any other topic about the acts?
I'm sorry, I couldn't write that fast. Would you mind if I took a picture of that last slide with the cost,
sure.
just so I could?
The cost to sell?
Yes.
Oh, sure. We'll put it up here. You guys, anybody that wants to take a picture, come on up and take a picture of it.
Is this? Hello? Are you using the scenario of a paid-for house with this one?
I'm sorry?
Are you using the scenario that this is a paid-for property?
Free and clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I can also do this with one that has a loan on it plus some equity. Let's say this $100,000 house, they want $100,000, and that's all there is to it, and they owe $50,000, but they're not willing to let go of that $50,000 worth of equity. Well, first off, I'll knock them down with the cost to sell and show them they're only going to get $67,000. Okay, so now there's only $17,000. Okay, then I'll say, but I can get you the 100, but you're going to have to take it over time. So then I'll put $17,000 in as the principal on the top, the asking price, and then I'll play with the interest, or not on this one, on the mortgage. There, on this one, I'll put $17,000 in on top as the asking, play with the interest rate, play with the term, and make it that it's a decent amount that they can get over time. But I'll get them up to the $50,000 total. So I got the underlying loan to pay on plus that new one that we just created. Make sense?
And the thing to remember, too, guys, on that cost to sell sheet, not every single thing may apply there. I mean, there's some things on there that you'll take off that won't apply to their particular situation, but it gives you an idea. I mean, you can just take out those little things and it still gives them that bottom number.
Payments on there. Well, if it's free and clear,
if it's free and clear, there wouldn't be any payments, right?
And make it specific to your area. Like our area, we have a $250 sewer inspection fee, plus just about every sewer fails, so we got to put at least $2,000 into repairing a sewer. So whatever your area, dictates.
Okay, more questions?
Yes, over here.
Okay.
Isn't this actually the seller side of a HUD-1?
Of the HUD-1?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear what he said.
No. I'm not of the HUD-1? What? No.
Right. If you take the seller side of a HUD-1 and show them or show it to the actual seller, That's what he would actually end up with. Is that correct?
Sort of, but we're throwing in a lot of other deductions in there, such as maintenance, utilities, all that stuff. See?
The things that the sellers don't think about.
Right.
I mean, they're holding. I mean, that's the things that people are. You have to pay that, so that's why it's all added into that, because it's really the true number of what it's going to take them to sell that. Okay, more questions? Just pass. If you guys can just take it to the next person that has their hand up, yeah. We'll try to get as many questions in as we can.
Yeah, I don't know if I need this. How many deals a month do you do using this system as compared to, say, the Axe? I know you're doing a lot of Axe.
Well, this is Axe.
You use this for so you combine it with the Axe presentation.
Well, yeah, this is what we're doing. You know, what we're doing is the only thing that Axe won't work with is totally over-leveraged properties. Okay, I mean, if it's mortgaged for $600,000 and today it's worth $200,000, it's a short sale. You know, other than that, we're using Axe for everything.
So you're using this as a tool with the Axe.
Yes. Yes. You got to show them that the biggest hurdle we have is overcoming seller objections as far as, well, why wouldn't I just list it? You know, why wouldn't I just wait for a cash buyer to come in? Well, then that's our biggest hurdle, is overcoming that and educating them that they cannot, or they could do that, but God knows how long it's going to take.
Okay, so and it's early, half a cup of coffee. So you're not getting the deed on every one of these. So you're not getting owner finance. You're actually using it as a lease tool to get the lease purchase.
I'm not taking any deeds right now.
So these are all for lease purchase, lease options.
I'm not taking any deeds. Now, you can use it for taking deeds.
Oh, it's fantastic for
you can
free
use
and
it
clear.
for that,
Yeah.
but I really don't want any more deeds right at the moment. Now, that will change, you know, because everything changes in real estate, and there's going to come a time where I'm going to start taking, instead of doing the lease options, I'm going to do subject twos. Give me the deed. I want it. I want it.
And in our circumstances that you're going to come across today, you better take the deed.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a good enough deal,
Yeah.
you want to be in it. Not with the lease option, but you want to actually own it.
And that's the beauty with Axe. You're feeding your cash flow needs today with Axe, but also here comes one that's a sweetheart deal that you don't want to pass on. You keep it. But it's what your risk tolerance is as to if that property does go empty, you're going to have to make payments. So if you can stomach a payment on a property, if it goes empty, take it. You do it. Stay in the middle.
Question right here.
Oh, you kind of almost answered what I was
Hold it
going
real
to
close,
ask.
honey. We can't hear you. Hold it.
So the reason you're not taking deeds is because of the risk to reward, basically?
Well, yeah, I mean, it used to be, any kind of equity would take the deed. Here again, what I'm going to caveat that with, what is your risk tolerance? If you're going out there and you're taking every one of these and taking the deeds on all of them, and they all go empty, it's coming out of your pocket. So can you handle it? If you can handle it, go for it. I mean, you're building wealth. But if your risk tolerance is, boy, I just need cash flow right now, then assign them off.
And starting out, I would definitely do a couple Axe deals, get some cash in your pocket, then start building your portfolio. Because, I mean, unless there's just a deal like, I think it was John. John has a deal back there. I don't care if he was an absolute beginner. I would tell him, you get into that, you get that deal, and if you got to take the deed, you take the deed. Right. Because there's some deals that just have too much in it that you don't want to just control it, you want to own it.
Right. So that would apply also, I guess, to sandwich leases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Sure. And with this, here's the other thing. With sandwich leases, there's nothing that says you can't go back 5 years from now and say, I'm exercising the option, I'll take the deed, or I'll take it subject to, whatever. I mean, you can renegotiate on down the road. For the next 3 to 5 years, as the economy gets better, hopefully, I've performed, Mr. Seller. I've done what I told you I would do. I'm making your payments. What I'd like to do now is take it subject to instead. you deed the property over to me, and I'll continue making the payments until we get it sold.
If you do a sandwich lease, John, don't you have the same risk? Whereas if somebody leaves, you're responsible for that payment, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. As long as you stay in the middle, you're going to be on the hook for that payment if it goes empty.
If I'm a seller and I decide to take a 10-year lease, what are my difficulties on buying a new house within the next 6 months?
Ron actually covered that yesterday, and one of the things that you have to remember is for the seller, if they're going and buying another property, a lot of the mortgage companies will give them 75% debt to income on the amount that they have on their prior mortgage.
Even though there's no seasoning on the payments for the lease?
It's lender specific.
Yeah, very lender specific. That's something they would have to check with them.
I mean, we all know the banks have been changing their rules almost minutely for the past 3 years. I mean, you just got to, what other choices do they have? I mean, they want out of this property. They don't want to make this payment anymore. Maybe they got transferred to another state or something. They can't sell it. They can't make 2 payments. You got to remember, we want that motivated seller. It's not really for somebody who wants to sell. It's for somebody who needs to sell. Yeah, hold up.
On the assignment fee, does a buyer ever object vigorously to that not being applied to the purchase of the property?
We've had little to none.
I can't even think of one that has asked
that
for that to be applied. But as Ron told you guys yesterday, he told you how to do that if there is a case that it does. Simply get an escrow agent, attorney, to hold the funds so the money goes into escrow, and then it's paid to us out of escrow so that then they can apply and show that it's gone into an escrow account.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Very, very few objections, though, from them. They don't object.
Here's one down here. Do you guys want us to talk to you a little bit about our process as far as the people we have in place and how we pay them and those kind of things? Oh, okay. All right. We'll do this question and then we'll go into that.
Stephanie, that's where I was going. What's your staffing? What's
Okay.
your compensation for your staff? How do you manage it?
Okay.
Why don't we give them the download? Quick and load.
Yeah, definitely. We can.
A couple years ago, we did a mastermind presentation on our business and broke it down. And what we did was we put it into a PDF that you guys can download if you want. Just go to this website. It's kind of cute. I made it up. It's Quit, Q-U-I-T, and Grow Rich with .us. Quit and Grow Rich with us.
.us.
And it's a PDF. You can download it. It'll ask you for your name and stuff. It's like a little squeeze page. Quit, Q-U-I-T, and A-N-D, Grow Rich with .us.
That'll pretty much give you a basic outline of what we do. Some things have changed a little bit since then, but to give you a basic idea of our structure, we have an acquisitionist on the ground that basically does the deals for us. So what their involvement is, they're making the call back. Once the VA has taken the information, the acquisitionist is making the call to the seller and talking to the seller. And basically getting the rest, if there's any other things that they need, and then they call and talk with John, go over the deal, and make sure that it's something we want to do. And the acquisitionist then goes out, meets with the seller, gets that, the option, notice of option, everything that we need taken care of right there. Then they set up the closing. Actually, the acquisitionist doesn't set up the closing anymore. Our VA sets up the closing. So once the closing is ready to happen, the acquisitionist lets the VA know. The VA then gets the closing set up. And We have the acquisitionist will go to the closing because they are going to actually write down and take some things that we get specifically for the tenant buyer to sign if it's one that we're taking ourselves. If it's one that we are not taking ourselves, that we're not in the middle, nobody from our side is going to the closing. There's no need for it because the attorney is working with the buyer, the tenant buyer, and the seller. And we don't have any involvement in it because we're out of it. Because we've actually gotten our money already prior to that. If not, the attorney, if there's some more due to us, the attorney knows and he collects it then, and that's the end of it. But if it's something that we're staying in a sandwich lease option, then our acquisitionist is at the closing because we actually get some documents signed personally if we're staying in the middle, some extra things that we like as additional protection. Then as far as compensation, we have two things set up with our acquisitionist. The acquisitionist, if it's a lead that we are bringing to them to run with, they get 30%. If it's a lead that they are bringing themselves, which they do, they bring a lot of deals to us that don't even go through our VAs, they actually come directly to us with the property, then we split it 50-50 with them. Now, we had the question yesterday, and I'll head it off because I know you're probably all thinking it. Why would someone bring a deal to us and split it 50-50 once they've learned how to do this? I can't tell you. Why would someone give you a deed? I don't know how to explain it to you. I don't know that there is an explanation other than some people don't have the ability or the want or desire to go out and build a business themselves.
Now, we have had them go off on their own.
Yeah.
But they're not really doing any business.
Yeah.
So
and we've had them come back.
It's like, why train your competition? Well, you're really not.
And I think it has something to do with being considered as part of a group, too, because we always tell them that. When you're out there, you're not alone. You are part of a group. And we tell them, you're part of a nationwide group. Right. Because we have investors everywhere.
And you guys are, too. When you're talking to your sellers and your
you're
buyers,
part of a nationwide group.
You're part of a nationwide group of investors that buy and sell properties. You're part of Ron's family. Right?
Okay, that probably stirred some questions. Anybody raise their hand? Yeah, okay. Wait, you have to have a microphone. 1 sec. Then you'll pass it back.
For your acquisitionist, is that a 1099 person or a W-2 person?
1099.
So you avoid employees.
Absolutely. Right. We have no employees.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, here, let me finish out that. So we have the acquisitionist. We used to have a salesperson. We used to have an acquisitionist and a sales. Well, what happened with the VAs, and I can't even tell you, again, I know we told you yesterday how the VAs have changed our business. The VAs now basically sell our houses because if you've got an empty house, what do you need? You need a lockbox, and you need somebody to tell them how to get into the lockbox. Well, that's what the VAs do. They're guiding them to the property. They tell them, they answer the questions about the property. They've never been to the property. They've never seen it. But
they're in another state.
Yeah, they're in another state. But what they're doing is guiding them to the property. The properties sell themselves. We found out we don't need a salesperson. They sell themselves.
Like a realtor does. They got to stand there and tell you, "Oh, isn't this a nice kitchen?" Like they can't see it's a kitchen. It's. So we don't have to do that. Plus, then we also found, and personally found, that even if you verify the appointment to show the property 5 minutes before you show it, they don't show. And I'm tired of doing that crap, so I don't do it. We let the property show itself.
So we've got acquisitionist, no longer a salesperson, and 2 VAs that basically are running. Now, we do have a handyman for all the little things that need to be done. If it's a property that we personally are either in the middle of a lease option or if it's one of our properties that we own from we've put a private investor on it, we own the property and we're, leasing it out with a lease option, then, he's doing all the little things. And what we've done is basically told our VAs they have the privilege of up to $200. If it's something that costs more than $200, then you need to get clarification from us that we're willing to do whatever it is that needs to be done that's more than $200. But anything under $200, somebody calls and says, well, I was just in this property and there was the toilet's cracked, the lid's cracked or something. Just tell the handyman to go fix it, if it's one that we own, that we're, in the middle of. So basically, that's what runs our office. And our bookkeeper, oh gosh, I can't forget our bookkeeper, Kara. Thank goodness for her, because she has took us out of trouble and kept us out of trouble, because there's, obviously you guys all know, real estate investing books are different than just regular books. I mean, there's a lot to investing, and you got to keep all your receipts and mark everything down. And when you're here, you got to be making sure that you're writing on your receipts what you're here for, why you're here, so that you can take all those deductions. So that's basically our office, and they all work out of their homes. We used to have an office, and I can tell you that it wasn't good, because everybody gets involved in the minutia, and one person's saying something everybody else wants to hear. I'm sure you guys all get that, so I won't even go into all that. But basically, when we went virtual, it totally changed our business. Because now, when you're paying for a VA and they're working. They're not, they're not gossiping over to the next person or talking about this or that. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's what you're paying for. So John told me that was going to be the way it was going to work, and I didn't believe it, but I have to say he was right. And our business has totally changed since then. And of course, you still have to be a manager.
Yeah, you
you have to manage your business. You have to make sure that things are going well. And we have a call with our VAs, Elsa and Marla. We talk to them once a month, just to ask them what's going on from your side. Is there anything that you're coming across that is an issue? So you have to have a communication with them too. And if there's something in the meantime, I email them, they email back. I get a Google Docs that shows what they're doing. And it's a beautiful system. I can't tell you enough how great it is, but you've got to make sure you work with ELSA. Right. Make sure if you feel that your VA isn't giving you what you need, communicate. That's the biggest thing. Talk about it. Don't just assume, okay, get rid of this one.
The biggest thing in our business is communication. We tell our tenants that. We tell our sellers, our buyers, our VAs, everybody. If you don't communicate with us, then that's when John's blood pressure goes up, and we have to make changes. So we have to, if you're not going to be able to make your payment, call and tell us what's going on. If the VA needs to take off this weekend, call and let us know what's going on. We can get the other VA to cover for you, or get somebody else. Let us know what's going on. Otherwise, issues arise, and then Monday morning is nothing more than we're playing firemen and putting out fires all over the place. So communication. It's the biggest part of our business.
And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about while Ron's not here is there isn't a single one of you, honestly, that cannot do this. And the whole thing comes down to, will you? And that's where it really, we've been here. We sit in many of these classes. On Thursday, we were sitting, or was it Friday? I guess it was Friday, for the affiliate training. And somebody said to us, why are you sitting in the front row? You're usually sitting in the back. And I'm like, well, I'll tell you why. When I really have to learn something and I want to get involved in something and understand it, I got to sit up front. I can't be looking at other people's the back of their heads. I have to be sitting up front where I can really see and really get it. And even though I'm not an internet person, and I really probably never will be because it's not my desire, I still want to understand it so that when I'm taking it to my person to talk to them and say, I want you to implement this, I at least have some knowledge of what I'm talking about. Or how can I say, okay, well, I think I want you to do this. I got to at least have some idea. Now, that was way over my head, that presentation they did. I mean, most of the stuff, I wrote it down, but I have no idea what it's going to do for me. But I know, because I've talked to one gentleman back here that is an internet guy, and I said, listen, did you learn anything here? Because I thought, if he learned something here, then these guys were really good. And he's like, yep, I wrote 3 things down I didn't know. And I'm like, okay, good. So now when I take these notes back to my guy, they're going to be able to go, okay, this is great. No problem, I can do this for you. But I at least have some idea. So coming into the real estate arena out of the affiliate marketing area, I can honestly tell you guys that once you leave here today, after Ron's done, because you got a pile more to learn here today, if you're not going to be implementing it, shame on you. Because I'm telling you, ACTS is the easiest way you're going to get a check. And you need someone to guide you. I'm not saying you have to mentor with us, but if you guys leave here without getting mentoring before you go today, you're nuts. Because you can take this book that you've got there, which is great. Ron has done a great job with that book. But that's not going to push you. That's not going to make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing. That's not going to hold you accountable. You're going to take that book home. You're probably going to leaf through it once if you leaf through it. And you're going to set it on the shelf and not do anything with it. And I know this probably sounds like a sales pitch. But I'm telling you, because it is my desire and John's desire, we are here this weekend. We're not being paid for it. We're here because of you guys. And I tell you, it warmed our hearts to see when, because we had asked Nikki before we got here how many were coming. And she said, I think there's 50 registered. And we had to keep adding tables and adding tables. And Nikki, what did it turn out? What do we have, like 70-some? 70-some people here or something? 80. So to me, that was like, okay, this knowledge is something people want. So now the thing is, do something with it. Get into mentoring. Get to the Quick Start. Raise your hands who has not been to the Quick Start. Wow. Okay, wow. Crazy. Listen, guys, before you leave here today, and this is something Ron actually forgot to tell you about yesterday, and I'm not sure how he slipped up with it, but maybe he'll say it today, but I'm going to tell you anyways. Being here today, you actually get, since you have been since you've been to the ACTS, you get a discount on Quick Start. So you can go for $14.95. And that includes not only the Quick Start, the training, which I believe is what, 3 days, Nikki? 4 days. 4 days. And it includes the bus tour, right. Includes a bus tour. You actually will get Ron's Work for Equity program. You'll get the IRA course. And you'll get the cash flow systems, his red and green courses. And I think he also gives a certificate, right, for Anderson Law Group. Okay, you get a free LLC with the Anderson Law Group. Guys, do not leave here without mentoring or Quick Start. Because you're not going to really take this and do it. 2 days of training on this is not enough. It's not enough for you guys to really go out and implement it unless you have a really good base and a really good background in real estate.
And like Ron said yesterday, I mean, who better to learn from than Scott, who's doing it, or us? I mean,
and listen, we don't need students.
Yeah, we don't.
We don't. No. That's not the point. We're doing this for you guys. We don't, because Ron pays, as he always says, he pays us weekly. He pays us weekly is right.
Very weekly.
The weekly, like weekly and weekly. But listen, we do it because we're giving back. We're giving back to you, trying to help other people become successful in this because we feel a debt of gratitude to Ron. Right. And that's why we gave him ACTS. Because truly, it's a debt of gratitude to him.
We don't make a dime off that ACTS program.
We're glad to be here. We're glad to help you. So when you see us in the hallway, if you have a question, grab us and ask us because that's what we're here for. We're not here to learn it. We already know it. We did it. We invented it. So it's not. This is for you. So I'm going to shut up now and let you ask more questions.
Yeah, I have one. Where on your acquisitionist, where do you pick them up as far as where you're advertising to pick them up? And what do you like in one? Are you looking for persons who are either not involved in real estate, who are employee-minded, or are you looking for more entrepreneurial-minded?
To be honest with you, we're looking for anything. Entrepreneurial-minded is fine, but the chances of that person going on it to themselves and doing it themselves is probably going to happen. But that's okay, too. We've trained a lot of people in our area. And to be quite honest with you, it really hasn't hurt us at all because they eventually all come back at some point and want to do something with us. They're looking for bigger projects. They're looking to do something. So I'm a giver mentality. I'd much rather give because I know that coming back is going to be a whole lot more. So to me, I'm never afraid of that. I'm not afraid of competition at all. Because, matter of fact, we create a lot of our own competition. Yeah. But believe it or not, it all comes back around, and it's amazing how it does. We're in a relationship building business. That's how we feel. Everything we do is relationships, and that's how we've been so successful. I mean, we are not actually doing real estate that much anymore because we have our team doing it, but we still have our hands in it, so we know every step of what's going on. But we're out there doing bigger projects. We're doing non-performing notes. We're doing bigger things. But as we're doing that, we're building all these relationships that build around us and multiple streams of income. So if one thing is going down, the other one's coming up. So that's basically, and your first question was how to find the acquisitionist. We've never had an issue with that. The first time we did it, we took somebody in that couldn't afford to be a student, and we turned them into an acquisitionist. Well, this was years ago, that actually turned into be one of our best investors because they trained well and stayed with us for quite a while. But the best way to find them is really just put an ad either on Craigslist or any of the sources and just tell them you're looking for someone that is willing to do acquisitions for a real estate practice. You're going to get a lot of realtors that will contact you. We actually had a very good realtor that was an acquisitionist for a while for us. But they got to be able to have the mindset of real estate investor and not be afraid because they're going to have to wear, if they wear both hats. Now, we've had one that wasn't a realtor any longer, but had the realtor mindset. And it took us a little while, but once they flipped that switch, man, it was crazy.
Right.
I mean, they were like, man, I was making peanuts over here. Why would I make peanuts when I can make the whole elephant? Mm-hmm.
Your two VAs, do they do different duties? And if so, what are the different duties, or do they do the same?
Different and the same. The VAs basically answer our telephones. They both do that. They actually do a split shift. Like, I believe it's from 8 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, and then 2 to 8. They split the shift. And they work very well together. We never, ever have anything to say about what they're doing as far as time. As long as it's covered, the shift is covered, I don't care. And they work out their weekends, and it's 7 days a week. They cover it. They worked out how, I'll take this weekend, you take that weekend. That's all between them. I don't know any of that other than they put it on my calendar so I know who's on call. Other than that, I have nothing to do with it. And as far as, I just lost my train of thought.
Well, they also do just about anything. When they first started for us, we put them on a 3-hour maximum per person. And come Friday, I started getting these phone calls from the VAs, and they said, John, we still have an hour apiece that we haven't done anything. Is there anything else you want us to do? And I said, well, what can you do? And they said, well, what do you want us to do? Anything. We can do anything. We can do a website. We can do spreadsheets. We can do PowerPoints. We can do this, that. I said, really? So I was doing the website. Turned the website over to them. They do search engine optimization for us. They do all our online marketing for us. They do, if I need a spreadsheet for something, they'll create a spreadsheet. If I need a PowerPoint, they create a PowerPoint. If I need a flyer, they create the flyer.
They do the text blast, email blast, voicemail blast.
All that stuff.
Basically anything that you don't need boots on the ground, your VA can do.
They do it all.
So, they do it all for us, except for the stuff that somebody physically has to be.
And now I don't think we have a limit on what they...
No, we have no limit.
How many hours. So,
no, they can do whatever is necessary.
How many hours are they averaging a week?
I don't even know anymore, John.
It's not much.
I don't keep track of that too much anymore because I know that what we're getting is far away less than, way more than what
it's
they're putting in.
It's less than 10 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's...
yeah, and that really has changed only because they probably would be putting a lot more if all of that business was being run through the VAs. But with our acquisitionists being able to bring deals themselves, which our acquisitionist is out there on the ground taking pictures of the, for sale by owners and calling them themselves. So that's what eliminates some of that going through the VA. So that's just another idea you guys could use, is once you get an acquisitionist, give them 50% of the deal if that's what it takes for them to bring, because it makes them more hungry. I mean, the difference between 30 and 50, do whatever you want. But it just made
20,
made us get way more deals and those deals never even make it to our website.
Yeah.
Literally, because the acquisitionist already has them sold before they even hit our website.
Yeah, she was
They're
complaining.
buying and selling them.
You were complaining the other day that, we really need to change some properties on the website. And I said, but they don't make it to the website.
I said we probably should just pay the VA to throw them up anyways, even though we've got them sold, bought and sold before they even had a chance to get to the website. But that's basically how we do.
Next.
Any other questions?
Google looks for changes on the website, so simply for that reason, it would be a good idea to change the properties on your website.
Yeah, we just haven't done it, but we should.
But that's not my question. I wanted to see, how do you phrase in your ad to find the tenant buyer that there's a cash payment needed up front?
No.
Or don't you disclose it in your ad?
Not in the ad. No. The ad is very simple, and this will bring in buyers like crazy. It's no bank qualifying, takeover payments, several homes to choose from, and our website and our phone number. That's it. Then they call in, they can go to the website, they can see how the process works. It's explained there. They can call in, the VA can tell them that you're going to need money, all that stuff.
Does it say on the website that a cash payment up front is needed?
Yes.
Okay. Otherwise, the question would have been, what's the success rate of 100 people calling in? How many still qualify once they find out you need cash up front?
Well, very, very rarely we get anybody that doesn't have any money.
Rarely do we get somebody that doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
I mean.
No, we may get, what we're starting to see is the upfront money's coming down. And I believe the reason that's happening is over the past 3-4 years here with the economy the way it is, the money they did have, they're starting to dip into it to live. Okay, so the money up front's starting to come down. But that's okay with us. If I'm looking for a $5,000 fee and they only got $2,500, we'll take the $2,500 with maybe a promissory note for the other $2,500.
Actually, it's a judgment note.
Yeah, we've moved on to a judgment note now. That's a writer-downer. A judgment note is, the way it's spelled out in the note, is if they default on the note, you can go file it in your courthouse and it turns into an automatic judgment against the person. You don't have to take it to court and all that stuff.
Yeah, and listen, we're willing to we take things on trade. I mean, if it's something of value.
This is a great time for tax returns.
Tax return. This is an amazing time for tax returns.
In fact, I think our banner on our website says that. Use your tax return.
Yeah, we get a lot of people that'll be like, well, I'm getting my tax return. And we'll be like, okay, it depends on how short a period of time it's going to be before they get it. But they have to put at least something, a fairly good, a little decent amount down first. And we'll take a judgment note on their tax return.
And we're doing real well with the judgment notes. They're paying. The ad is, let's see, no bank qualifying, takeover payments.
Several homes available.
Several homes to choose from.
Yeah.
Website and phone number.
I had somebody yesterday, I don't remember who it was, said, the thing I'm really worried about is getting buyers. Let me tell you guys, that is the least thing you should be worried about.
Yeah.
The buyers are way more, we cannot supply our buyers. We don't have enough houses to supply our buyers.
Get the contracts, the buyers will come.
Yeah, buyers are really easy right now. And why do you guys think that is? You understand what's happened in the economy? The fact that you can't go to the bank and get qualified. You throw that ad in, and we can't even run that ad very often.
No.
Honestly, we can't. We put it in, and the VAs are like, okay, we cut way more people than we can possibly even.
I mean, you got to remember, our town in Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania, is 17,000 people. Ron has a 1.7 million here. Okay, it's a little easier to get people from 1.7 million than 17,000. But We're doing pretty good.
It just shows you that the
We're doing
need
pretty
is
good.
there, guys. I mean, the buyers, when you put something in the paper that says no bank qualifying, they're all over it.
We the first time we ran that ad, 75 calls a day. A day. We ran it for 5 days. We pulled it after 3.
So buyers are not your problem. Find another excuse to.
Yeah.
That's just not your problem.
That's
believe
not,
me.
Yeah.
For somebody that's new and just starting this, what is a reasonable startup cost with the VAs and the things that you need to get started? And how quickly would you estimate the payback on that?
That's a really kind of tough question, and it's kind of individual to what you want to do, what your tolerance is, but I understand where you're coming from. I would say, first of all, get your VA, so you know you've got $495 for your stuff, and you're going to have to pay your VA, obviously. So that plus, along with, I would do, some cheap things like business cards, like we went over yesterday in your books. Get some business cards, talk to people. That's the number one thing, networking. Get out there to networking events, which cost you nothing, but probably the price of a meal. And so many students really start that way by just telling people what they do. Get out into the marketplace and get some FSBOs. Go, if you can't afford a VA, go do it yourself. Which is not the preferred way to do it, because you really need to be doing the other things to build the business. But if you're really on a crunch, that's something I would say do, because I think it's a good thing to do anyways, totally for the realistic aspect of you understanding what your VA is going to go through. Because if you haven't done it yourself, there's no way that you're going to be able to tell your VA is doing it or not doing it right. Do a couple days yourself and see what it's like.
You need leads. Like Ron said, if you don't have enough leads in your business, you're not going to make any money.
Remember the funnel, guys.
You got to have leads.
All this has got to come in. And if you're mentoring with us, that's where we push you. And we'll be like, okay, if you didn't get enough leads this week, then you got to be doing something different next week. We got to evaluate what's the problem. Why have you not gotten enough leads?
And the thing too, I'm a big believer in marketing. I tell everybody that 98% of our business is marketing. You're either looking for sellers, buyers, or private money. So you got to market. And when you walk in somewhere, somebody's got to know that you buy houses. How do you accomplish that? All your different marketing. Maybe your shirts are embroidered with "We Buy Houses," the back of your shirt. Your vehicle's lettered up. You're doing the FSBO calling is great, but it's not the holy grail. You got to do more. You got to do the yellow letters. You got to do print ad. You got to do flyers. You got to do business cards. You got to do yard signs. You got to do.
But the answer to your question specifically is get out there, get as much. FSBOs, I would say, is probably the easiest, quickest way to get some leads that are going to get you the quickest paycheck.
That's it.
Even if you're driving some neighborhoods and you see a for sale by owner, you got to take that and run with it. And, as quickly as you can get the leads in, you're going to get a deal.
Yeah. You got to have the leads coming in. If you don't have the leads, you don't have the prospects. You don't have the prospects. You don't have the contract. You don't have the contract. You have nothing to sell. And I always try to get a contract on a property. Even if they want full asking price, they're stuck on all cash, I don't care. I'll take a contract on it because, number one, if I don't take a contract, I have no chance of selling that property and making money. Number two, if I don't sell the property, look at all the mileage I got out of it for marketing. When we first started, we always had 15 to 20 contracts at any given time available for our buyers. Now, you go out and get one contract, and you're bringing buyers in. This is what I have. They may want it, they may not. You say, here, I got 15, 20, what do you want? They're going to buy. So you want to get as many contracts as you can.
Okay, I think we'll take one more question. I think Ron's getting ready to start up here, so go ahead.
I have a question on that judgment note you guys were talking about.
Yes.
what kind of deal are you guys applying this to? It's not axe deals, is it? Or
anytime we're getting an option consideration fee in or an assignment fee in, that's what we're using.
So how are you explaining it to the buyer? So you're saying, listen, I'm going to get $2,500 up front right now, and then what's the rest?
What is reasonable for you then to give us, because $2,500 is not enough.
It's not enough to get into this property.
And they'll say, well, I can give you probably, maybe another $2,000, and we'll negotiate with them and say, well, we really, this house, we really wouldn't let anybody in for less than $5,000. So if you give us another $3,000 in a judgment note, or sometimes we'll combine it with, we'll take and a little bit extra per month. If their budget is able to handle a little extra per month, they may give us another $100 a month and a judgment note.
Yep.
Okay? Yep. And then when that judgment note is due, they got to pay us. So a lot of times they'll say, well, I get a bonus in May, or I'm going to be getting my tax return in May. That's where we're taking that judgment note, so that when they get that, we're getting it.
The judgment goes right against their credit if it gets exercised.
Absolutely. Our attorney will record the judgment note, and it will go against their credit, which we don't want them to do because we want them to buy it.
Right.
But he said it's better than the promissory note.
Right.
So, and it's working.
It's working.
The people, they really feel like...
Have you had any defaults? Anybody not paying?
None.
No.
When we went from the promissory note, on promissory notes they defaulted. But when we went from promissory to judgment note, there's no defaults.
And I think it was how the attorney explained it to them, that this will go onto your credit. I mean, the promissory notes, he said, it's pretty much like you can...
Oh, so you have them go into the attorney's office and sign this paperwork? And then,
absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Gets done right at the closing. Yeah. Okay, guys, I think Ron's getting ready to start here, so...
What's the best way to get realtors to start giving you their over-leveraged leads that they can't do anything with?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Yeah. What we tell them is, when you get, do you get any over-leveraged properties? Well, yeah, we always get over-leveraged properties. Well, if they're not way out of whack and they're over-leveraged, feed those to us. We might be able to help people in those situations if they're willing to work with us. If they do, we'll make sure you get a fee. And you can, here again, everything's negotiable with them. You can pay them whatever. You work it out with them.
And this is really a conversation you have to sit with the realtor and have.
Right.
Because realtors do not, in most cases, get this.
No.
So you have to one-on-one sit with the realtor and talk to them, build a relationship with them, explain to them how you can help them, because initially their defense wall is up. Okay? It is.
And in return, hey, I see you're doing short sale listings. How about if I give you all my clients that come to us that are short sales? I'll give you the listing. And with us, the way we do it, we'll work the short sale. You'll get the listing. When I buy from the bank, you'll get paid. Now, if you want paid a second time on that property, then you bring me a cash buyer to buy from me, and you'll get paid another commission. So you get paid twice on the same property, and all you had to do was list it. They like that. So it's a give and take kind of thing. I'll give you this if you give me that.
I was interested in doing the lease purchase thing on the higher end homes, like $500,000 to $1 million. And I don't know if those people are necessarily Craigslist readers as much. And I was wondering if you had any tips on how to attract a buyer's list and also a seller's list from. I kind of have some ideas for sellers, but a buyer's list for that
I think
market.
you have somewhat of a misconception, because I'll be honest with you, because we've done some higher end ones too, and Postlets, Craigslist, once you send it out to there, that's where they mostly come from. So apparently they are reading it. I don't know why, but they are. So that we've not had that issue.
And you also want to do your normal marketing for the property as well.
Right.
Put signs in the yard, all that kind of stuff. Online as much as you can. Postlets is a great way to put your properties out there. Postlets puts it out on, I forget how many websites with just the push of a button. There's several sources on the internet that you can put it out there too. Most of the searches for real estate today about 90% of them are starting on the internet. So we want to really make sure we have it out there on the internet.
So that's the main place where you guys get your buyers list and generate it is from the internet?
That and our ad, when we put that ad in, it just
in the newspaper
overflows with. But
Yeah, our
Craigslist, we get a lot from Craigslist too.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Was this helpful, guys? Good. I'm glad.